Thank you for joining us. This is Paul Wilson.
And Chris Emke.
And you're listening to the Diesel Performance Podcast. Chris, it has been a crazy run on downloads lately. Guys are going nuts for some of the recent episodes.
L5P has been a big hit, man.
Yeah.
You know, we've had that, the budget build. So the budget pull truck that we did over at Duramax Tuner, which if you listen to last week's episode, we're taking that over.
Do you know what I titled that episode?
What?
LBZ budget build destruction.
Oh, yeah, that works really well with Tyler. We give him a lot of crap. He invested a lot of time into that. But at the end of the day, people don't remember what you did right. It was what you did wrong. Like, I don't care who you are. And he gets pretty much all the flack now.
Yeah.
But, I mean, he left the truck. Blame. He left the truck in a very poor standing. And, I mean, he was maintaining a full-time job.
Sure.
Engagement.
Yep.
He's got a 6-liter, so I mean that's another
constant
job altogether.
Of time and money. Yep.
And then the pull truck and having to pull on the weekends. So I mean, with the resources that were given to him and what he could utilize, I think he didn't do that bad of a job.
I think he didn't do that bad of a job.
Yeah.
Rough. Not a compliment.
It was a backhanded compliment. And I said that way for a reason. I'm setting the tone for next year because we're eventually going to have a recap with Nick, and Nick is very vocal to me.
Right.
Nick is vocal to you, and he is not going to have any restraint, if you will, to me if I was in Tyler's seat this year.
So right now, the audio is out from the other day. So we recorded that audio. If you guys have heard last week's episode, we recorded that audio, and we also videotaped everything.
Mm-hmm.
So we will have a video coming out for like the end of that LBZ budget build video series. That'll end up being episode 12. But we wanted to get that audio out there because we thought it was just great audio. And you can kind of hear Nick's like quiet rage building as he gets more into it. But it is funny because there's certain things that went wrong in that project. But as you said, there's also a lot of things that went fucking right. 364 feet in Belvedere, first place in McHenry County, several other first place polls. That 67 G2 turbo killing it.
Well, and I think the thing too is we give them a lot of flack for like the trans.
Right.
That's a stock 170,000 mile trans.
Right.
Right.
That we abuse.
Yeah, the hell out of
abuse.
Literally 40,000 pound trailer, sled behind it, and we're clicking in the fourth from third, and then downshifting back in the third
at full speed.
Yeah, at like 20 some miles an hour, which is incredible. But it's a learning experience. We did some stuff at the shop where we were doing like data log reviews over the summer, and from the polls that he went to and what he performed. So it gave us a lot of good data to collect, analysis, that kind of thing. So, it's cool to see what we can take from this year, bring it into next year. You and I are really going to have to
give a shit.
Yeah, I think we need to get Nick to invest into a sled.
Oh yeah, so we can get some practice without fans.
Because I have never sled pulled before. I've never.
So both of us have the same amount of sled pull experience.
Yeah.
This could be a train wreck. Are we just now realizing that as we have this conversation?
I mean, I just want to say for everyone to hear, you came to me 2 weeks ago and said, this is what we're doing with the budget build. And I'm like, sweet.
Yeah.
So.
And that was all of the planning
I've been to the drag strip multiple times. As much as I give Tyler flack and other guys that are really in the sled pulls flack, you have to be somewhat experienced. You're not just getting there, hooking up to the trailer and flat footing it.
Well, we're going to find out because that's exactly what we're going to do for both of us.
I mean, now I'm just more sensitive to it because I'm going to make myself look like an asshole. I mean, it's either going to make it or break it for me. Hopefully we learn from it. So I'm excited at the end of the day.
One of the really cool things about the LBZ budget build is that it featured all of our sponsors' products.
Yeah.
So the sponsors of Diesel Performance Podcast make this show possible. Between them and the listeners, the only reason that we can do this, which we love doing this, by the way. This is just a lot of fun to come down and do the podcast. So we, of course, have the 100% over injectors from Exergy in the LBZ budget build.
Along with a 10 millimeter CP3 from them.
10 millimeter CP3. And we do have a WC Fab Y bridge. Now, Tyler found that Y bridge used, but it's a WC Fab Y bridge.
Yeah, one of my really good buddies, he had it for sale, and he actually upgraded like his full turbo kit to like a 400 style.
Yeah.
So his name's Grant. So kudos to Grant for helping us out with that. We have the Stealth 67 G2 Turbo, which we talked about, from Duramax Tuner, Calibrated Power.
And it's tuned by Corey Willis.
It is tuned by...
Yeah, I know who you were going to say.
Yeah.
It is... No, so of course it's tuned over here at Duramax Tuner.
Yeah.
By Nick. So that was a lot of fun. A lot of fun to see that truck out there. We're really excited to kick off next season with it. As we do that, we are looking for sponsors. So if you would like to be a sponsor of
that's a pitch if I've ever heard it. Oh my God.
How about you give two people who have very little idea of what they're doing a pile of money, and we'll let you know how it goes.
We're going to have it wrapped. It's going to be called Two Clowns in a Truck. What's up? Yeah.
I call the clown from Saw. One of the other things that's really cool about doing this show is we're very grateful and very humbled to have been asked to be a part of some of the biggest events in the diesel performance industry. So we are the official podcast of Diesel Power Challenge, and we are the official podcast of Ultimate Callout Challenge. Last year and the year before, we attended that challenge. We did a ton of recordings. We have a little bit different plan of how we're going to address it this year.
I am so excited for this year. Like the guys over at UCC, they do a great job. Last year was my first year, attending. Prior years, I was watching all the Facebook Lives.
Right.
Well, yeah, it was phone bitch, but I was watching the Facebook Lives. Thanks, ass. Anyway, so to actually experience that event and how much action gets jam-packed in a couple days is seriously mind-boggling.
Yeah.
For being someone that's been in the industry for the amount of time that I have and seeing kind of the same old and dealing with the same thing day in and day out, that is a breath of fresh air.
Absolutely.
Like, I felt like a kid in a candy store all over again. Like, that is the mecca of diesel performance. It's that weekend, and it's something that, it's a spinoff off of something that happened prior. It's not something that's been around for years, but it feels like home. And it's the biggest, baddest fucking trucks in the country and, U.S. and Canada. And, it's crazy to see how far that event's evolved.
In such a short amount of time.
It's just fucking insane, man.
And you know what, Chris? One of the guys who's had a huge impact on that event changing and evolving and continuously getting better is actually our guest today. So our guest is sponsored by Calibrated Power Solutions, home of Duramax Tuner. Chris Searle, how the hell are you?
I'm doing great, guys. How are you?
Doing wonderful, man. Thanks so much for carving out some time to get on the show and talk to our listeners.
Not a problem. Not a problem at all. Love doing it.
So, Chris, you are over there at Ultimate Callout Challenge, DPI Expo, Diesel Performance Industry Expo. What's your job title? What's your history with this event?
If there's anything needs to be done, just tell Chris to do it. And if there's problems, go to Chris. I am the bucket at the bottom of the hill, so that would probably be the best job title. I actually do most marketing, the event planning with my partner James. He handles more of the drivers and the competition side of it.
Gotcha. So you are big on the actual event organizing itself and the layout and kind of working with the sponsors and things like that. Chris, I always like to start these off assuming people have never heard of the Ultimate Callout Challenge before, which means you've been living under a rock, and that's okay. We're glad you're out now.
Or you just bought your first truck.
Right. Totally possible. Chris Searle, can you explain to our listeners what is the Ultimate Callout Challenge?
Yeah, so the Ultimate Callout Challenge this year, again, is presented by Alligator Performance. I want to make sure I include them. We bring 30 of the biggest, baddest diesel trucks together to compete in a 3-day, basically, diesel triathlon. The same truck has to drag race on Friday, dyno on Saturday, and then sled pull on Sunday. They earn points from each event and can win each event, and then we take whoever has the most points at the end of 3 events is our overall winner.
I love it. That's a very quick synopsis of it. And it is. It's really amazing to see these 30 trucks come together and be able to compete. They drag race, they sled pull, and they dyno all on separate days. It's a kind of a unique situation, too. It's not like it's a bracket race where they got to go through and kind of weed out who's the winners and the losers. Can you explain how the drag race event is organized?
Well, yeah, I can. Now, this year, just so you guys know, we have something new happening with the drag racing that we haven't done in years past.
Ooh.
So traditionally, in years past, the drivers were going for their fastest time down the racetrack. You just were going for speed. It didn't matter how many passes you made, you just went for speed. This year, to increase the excitement, we've split the points of the drag race, and they now get half the points for the fastest time possible, but we actually will be doing head-to-head bracket racing for the other half of the points this year at the UCC.
No shit.
Now the fans can actually see them go head-to-head rather than just one truck down the track.
That is going to be very interesting.
That changes the dynamic.
So is it fastest time and then you qualify them in like a pro tree, or is it just they pick a number out of a hat and they have to line up with each other? How do you decide who races who?
See, now this is where you should have brought James on with that, because these are the questions that he knows.
He's not even here to defend himself, Chris.
I just do some ping pong balls. I'm not 100% sure. We put that decision of the rule change out to the top 10. That's how we do any rule changes in the UCC. Is the top 10 from last year get to vote on the changes, and they approved it. So, like I said, we just got the approval, changed the rules today, actually, and so some of the details I have not been filled in yet with how it's going to happen.
That's okay. Hey, we'll take the breaking news. Thanks for breaking in here first. Now we're actually going to have to produce this episode. Okay. So drag racing is changing. Any changes to the other events, to the sled pull or to the drag race?
The only other change that we have this year is, in years past, each of the competitors have got 2 pulls on the sled pull, and this year it's been knocked down to they just get a one-and-done pull at the sled pulls as well. Other than that, it's the same as the years in the past.
Awesome. Okay. I mean, losing that second pull, some of the guys that'll matter. A lot of the guys really weren't taking the second pull unless they absolutely needed it. I can only think of a handful of guys who actually went back down the track.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. Now, obviously, there's 3 events for Ultimate Callout Challenge. But when you're at the Ultimate Callout Challenge, there's so much shit going on. There's Diesel Performance Industry Expo, and there's a UCC qualifiers. Now, I want to dive into the qualifier first.
Yeah.
Can you again, Chris, kind of walk our listeners through what the hell is the UCC qualifier and why would they care about it?
You bet. So the UCC qualifier this year is presented by Redneck. And last year we allowed 50 people to come in and try to qualify to become a UCC competitor, to try to earn a spot into competing in the UCC. We're going to do the same this year, but we're limiting it to only 25 spots this year. So it's going to be really first come, first serve, hop on that. But what the qualifiers allows us to do is allows us to really take a look at the whole diesel industry. You know, if we had the same 30 trucks coming over and over and over again, you know, it doesn't give an opportunity for someone new, someone that wants to try to do this, a new shop, new driver. You know, the Ultimate Callout Challenge for us has always been about growing the industry and helping with innovation and challenging and pushing these trucks to different levels.
Absolutely. So anybody can get into the qualifier. Now, when UCC first started, we had James on the show, and he kind of said, he was like, at the time, he's like, man, when we first started this, like year 1, year 2, it was really just anybody who emailed and heard about it, like could kind of negotiate back and forth and like a rough look at like, what's your social media profile? Okay, yeah, you're in. But it's such a small industry that I guess we kind of all felt like, hey, we know each other. We know who should be here.
Exactly.
But immediately as we start to see it grow, I thought last year the qualifier coming out and giving, I mean, now privateers have a chance. So like if you're just an enthusiast, you can go out and get into the UCC qualifier. If you're a small shop and maybe you're not nationally known and you don't have, 50, 60, 200, 600,000 followers on Facebook, okay, you still have a shot. You have a legitimate place to go and prove you deserve to be here.
I think, one of the crazy things, like Jordan Moldner, right?
Yep, Moldner.
Yep. He was literally at River City the night before the qualifier started getting a new motor put in his truck. So, what's really cool, I think, about the UCC is you're allowing someone who is a true enthusiast to potentially go after who they idolize.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah, that's
this
a good way to
industry,
put it.
this industry is a dick swinging contest. Like it
lot of
is.
it.
I don't care who you are, what you say. It's an egotistical, like I'm fast, my truck makes more power. What better way to be able to, stress that or to practice that than to allow the AMs to come up with like the pros
Right.
and battle it out, or at least have the opportunity to do so.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I love that.
And I think the great part about it is, like you said, these new guys coming into it, they don't have the sponsors and stuff like that. The qualifier allows that. They can come out, they position, and now they have that spot in the UCC for the following year. Because of the size of the UCC and the DPI Expo, the sponsors want to help them. They want to be on these UCC trucks, which gives them more resources so that the following year when they come back as a competitor, they're able to take it up to that next level if they need to.
Right. I love it. I dig it, man. Now, the last piece of this moving puzzle is the DPI Expo. Now, I've heard, and I've had to work at a lot of expos in my life, and in my previous lives, Chris, an expo is not the most exciting word I could think of. However,
dude,
this is the largest gathering of diesel performance companies ever.
I mean, the one thing that not every listener or everyone that was there had the opportunity to, like we did, but you drive into the event and you see the DPI Expo, it's impressive.
Yeah.
But from the media tower looking down, it is impressive to say the least. How you guys over, at UCC were able to get all these guys under, or in one lot, right? It's not under one roof.
Yeah.
But it's mind-boggling to me. It's overwhelming. You have every tuner. GDP, Corey, you have, Fleece Oz tuning, you have, Calibrated Power Duramax tuner, you have Motor Ops, you have all of these tuners. Then you have, Alligator. Alligator's booth is insane. You have all the fab shops, SDP, HSP, Wehrli Custom Fab. You have it is mind blowing how many different vendors are under in one spot for, again, the end users, right? The enthusiasts, to put a face to the name, shake hands, talk to these guys that they watch or view on YouTube, or, they email back and forth, when a customer's calling and inquiring about parts or components. It's the interaction there, I think, is the biggest thing to take away from the DPI Expo, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you'll never be able to go to a show anywhere else or any other time, anywhere in the United States or Canada, and just see this many people that are also into diesel. It's the largest show by far, and it's not just like the tractor crowd, which I think we pull a lot of at Shides and kind of mix that with the truck crowd, right, and things like that. This blows it out of the water because there's so many vendors, there's so many companies, there's so many displays, and everybody has something. It's absolutely nuts.
I think for myself, being that enthusiast, going to the Shides or the TS years ago, that was also very nerve-wracking, seeing as many vendors that are there at that event.
Yeah, which was 15 or 20.
Yeah, exactly. Multiply that by 4. Right. It's just insane. I can't get over
the other shows I go to. We go to Vendor Alley.
Yeah, Vendor Alley, not Vendor Lot. The fuck.
Yeah, from the media tower, we got some really good views of where you start to look at it and you're like, how many football fields is this of space that we're taking up right now?
It's what, Chris, honestly, hats off to you guys. What you and James have been able to do up until this point. I mean, last year was the 3rd year, right?
Yeah.
3 years. 3 years. Yeah. It's insane.
And I'll be honest with you, that the DPI Expo, Jason talks about Premier. We appreciate their support. This year, we actually added another row of gold booths. We're actually adding more booths. We'll be up to 150 to 160 vendors. We've already sold, I want to say, 25 of those booths already have already been taken. And the nice part, with the DPI Expo, our whole thing behind that is, we wanted to create a spot not only for the fans, but for the shops. So we have WDs, we have retailers, we have the manufacturers. I mean, it's great when you can come down and actually talk to the tech guys at Exergy that are making the injectors. They're right there. You can talk to them one-on-one. In addition to that, a lot of people didn't realize this till they came last year. The DTI Expo is also a selling show. So everybody, it's the one stop if you need anything for your truck or have any questions or want to compare products side by side. It's right there for you.
Yeah. Well, what I think I found too with last year is a lot of vendors, they had like, whether it be new apparel or a product release that they were releasing there, for display, or like Exergy literally having a Cummins engine on a stand that would run and operate by a hand throttle. Like, there are all these little things that are going to allow end users to interact that they might see on the web or see on Facebook, wherever their view of that is. Now they get to put their hands on it. Now they get to touch it. Now they get to see it firsthand.
Can we just take a minute to talk about the displays at UCC?
Dude, the
competition is nuts. The competition is definitely there for people with trucks competing. Mm-hmm. The UCC competitors, the UCC qualifiers. There also seems to be a growing amount of competition for who can have the best booth. Yeah. Which sounds a little crazy, but since I've been pushed into that world, it's fucking competitive, Chris.
It is.
Don't be rolling your eyes at me.
No.
It is competitive.
No,
it really is. We've seen so many people who have, like Chris said, absolutely mind-boggling stands. Last year, Wehrli already had a L5P twin kit mocked up on an engine stand, and a whole bunch of other really, really cool stuff. And that's why we say is like when you go to the show, there's so much going on. One, it's going to take you all 3 days to seriously go around and talk to all of the vendors. And that's because there's so much else happening. Yeah. When you guys added the qualifiers, Chris, Searle, you guys were really kind of thinking like, hey, we need to make sure that there's action going on, that there's something for people to watch while they're at the show. And then this year, you guys decide to step it up even further. So there's quite a few other spectacles going on, I guess we could say. Can you walk me through what else is happening this year?
Yeah, so we're changing the format just ever so slightly. We are going to schedule a couple breaks during the show to allow fans to take a break from the action, go out, see the vendors, don't feel like they're missing anything. But one of the big things we're excited about, just to keep that action going, is we've teamed up with ODSS, and we are going to do the Super 8 shootout at the UCC. This will put the top 8 drag racing diesel head-to-head in kind of an exhibition run, qualifying on Friday and figuring out who the winner is on Saturday while the qualifiers drag race.
I'm really excited for this, Chris, because I don't get a chance to go out to a lot of the NHRDA races or to the ODSS, that's Outlaw Diesel Super Street or Super Series. So seeing the Quick 8 shootout, there's some of these vehicles here that I've just been dying to see run. Yeah. One of which being Larson Miller's Cummins powered S10. I've been watching that. I've been stalking that. Obviously, we know Larson Miller, Levon Miller, that's the whole Fire Punk crew, so we know that it's going to be a fast truck. We know he's going to be good behind the seat. I'm dying to see that one.
But you've always been a fan of Enrique's truck, too.
Okay, so here's what I'm really excited to see. Enrique Gonzalez with the Miami Hammer, the Duramax-powered Colorado.
Miami Hammer.
Running with Ryan Milliken in the Cummins-powered 66 Nova. Those two guys love each other. They're best friends. Not really. There's definitely some real passion going on in this Super 8 shootout. And some cool fucking trucks, man. Did you see Michael Dalton's 5.9 Cummins tube chassis 2012?
It's like a neon Ram. Orange. Yeah, it's a badass truck. It's been on my radar for several years.
I figured. I saw that and I was like, wow, this thing's way cooler than Chris's Cummins.
Which one?
Both put together. And then John Gilbert, he has that Cummins swapped, Common Rail Cummins swapped, second gen.
John, that truck has always been... it's always caught my eye ever since like Shide's 2013. Yeah, when it was a VP pump 24 valve truck for a long time, and then he converted over Common Rail a few years ago. But
I just want to say how much I love that.
What?
The Common Rail in a second gen.
Yeah, no, it's badass. Maybe one day I'll build one.
Yeah,
that'd be pretty sweet.
One day,
probably not.
So what day is the Super 8 shootout?
So it's going to be Friday and Saturday, qualify on Friday, and then they'll do the finals on Saturday. So they'll just kind of be in the middle of the day races right there.
Stoked.
Very cool.
And then I also saw Wade Moody is bringing that Duramax powered rail car out.
Yes, yeah, we're going to have Wade Moody's going to bring out his rail car. You were talking about the displays and that, and I can't announce everything on your guys' show. I apologize. I love you guys, but I have told the vendors I wouldn't. But I can give a slight hint that there are going to be a lot of the vendors now are getting some celebrities to come to their booths for photo ops and autographs from different TV series. It's probably the most generic way I can say that. Easy Link and Wagler are bringing out their coupe to be out there. If you haven't got to see their coupe, we haven't gotten talked into running it yet. Joey, hasn't had a lot of time to get it out there with his racetrack and everything, but that'll be out there. And yeah, people need to just follow our Facebook page, because as soon as we can announce the stuff, we are getting it out there and letting people know everything that's happening.
Absolutely. Well, I think as time progresses too, Chris, we're going to have you and James back on the show, kind of, following up. We're going to start, interviewing some of the competitors, the qualifiers. So, this is the start of many interviews leading up to UCC 2019.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, yeah, I don't want to do it with you guys.
Yep.
You're gonna be.
I mean, I don't like showing up to work and having to stare at you, Paul, every day, but shit happens, A buck's a buck, right?
A buck? Awesome, man. Chris, I am so excited for this year.
Yeah.
Also, one other shout out. So Alligator is doing a live truck build.
Oh,
They're
really?
actually doing 2 live truck builds side by side.
In a weekend?
Right behind their booth.
Man, you can't even change the oil in a weekend.
Yeah, like in a weekend.
Yeah, in a weekend. A day to drain, a day to fill.
Right, yeah. Baby, you got to let all the oil drain out. I'll be down here watching it. So Alligator's doing a live build. I actually jumped over there. I'll be doing some announcing.
Yeah.
During the
You have the perfect radio voice for that, so it'll be perfect for you.
Yeah.
And I don't have to see you.
We all got to be good at something. You actually will still see me, because one of the rows of the booths, the new booth space he was talking about, we got one of those. We're actually right. The booth
I get to stare at you the whole time? Sweet.
From the live stage, so that'll be fun.
I'm going to have some sunglasses with just no lenses. It's just blacked out. Yeah, it'll be perfect.
Good way to nap.
Yeah.
Chris, thank you so much for coming on the show and putting up with Chris and myself. We really appreciate it. We know our listeners are getting super excited. If people want to learn more about Ultimate Callout Challenge, or if they want to buy their tickets today, what's the best way for them to do that?
So to learn more about what we've got going on, obviously you can follow us on Facebook. You can also go to ultimatecalloutchallenge.com. That gives all the driver bios, who's competing. Every Tuesday and Friday, we announce another driver. We do that up to the middle of December, who will be competing. You can buy your tickets online at uccgear.com. And, I definitely recommend people buy them online. They are going to be more at the gate this year. So get your tickets online. You can also, pick up an event shirt while you're buying your tickets and everything.
I love it. Well, thank you so much. Listeners, for today, this has been Paul Wilson.
And Chris Emke.
Thanks for listening.
The Diesel Performance Podcast is brought to you by Calibrated Power Solutions, home of DuramaxTuner.com. Calibrated Power develops emissions-equipped calibrations for a wide variety of diesel powertrains, including Duramax, Cummins, Power Stroke, John Deere, Case, New Holland, and many more. For more information and the best customer service in the industry, check out calibratedpower.com or call 815-568-7920. That's 815-568-7920. If you'd like to contact the podcast, send us a message through Facebook or email Paul at DuramaxTuner.com or Chris at CEHMKE@DuramaxTuner.com. Hey, thanks for listening. Your feedback is appreciated. Please rate and review us on iTunes, subscribe on YouTube, like us on Facebook, and by all means, let us know if you have any ideas for a podcast. We'd love to hear from you.
Do you know what I titled that episode?
What?
LBZ budget bill destruction.
Oh yeah, that works really well with Tyler. We give him a lot of crap. He invested a lot of time into that, but at the end of the day, people don't remember what you did right. It was what you did wrong. Like, I don't care who you are.